These are cheap indoor greenhouses. Got them from Ocean State Job Lot. $20 each. So I've got 4 of them. Because the weather's been so crappy, I'm actually going to be starting the greenhouses indoors. I have a whole ton of huge windows on the inside of this house, so I can put the greenhouses right in front of them, and we'll start our vegetables indoors until the weather cooperates enough that I can move these greenhouses outdoors. Okay, here's 2 of them set up, and I've got in these the tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers, and I'll have some other vegetables I'll be starting in 2 that I'm putting upstairs. So far, so good. Our tomatoes are sprouting. I don't know if you can see that. They all came up literally overnight, one night. All my tomatoes were up. And then the peppers, a couple of them are starting. I don't know if you can see that. Got a couple. And the eggplants, a couple are starting too. The eggplants and the peppers take a little bit longer. There's an eggplant right there. They take a little longer. The tomatoes only took a little less than a week, and the eggplants and the peppers take 8 to 14 days or so. So they should be popping up now anytime. Because as you can see, if you look beyond this, it is snowing. It's the end of March. This is Connecticut. So I'm starting my plants indoors this year. I've got a bunch of huge windows, French doors, sliding glass doors in this house. So some pretty sunny access. So we'll do the greenhouses indoors for probably a couple more weeks until this madness ends with the snow. And then I can just move them outside, and then that'll help acclimate the plants for when I actually put them into the garden. Will also give me a chance. I've got to do some repair on these raised gardens before I get everything up and running. So a lot of work ahead. Okay, started our second set of greenhouses yesterday for the plants for the beginning of April. Got a nice window up here in the bedroom. So, and I'm doing a little bit of an experiment here. I've got 3 different types of soil that I'm starting the seeds in. And one of them is a regular seed starting mix that you're supposed to use, but will not be available during the apocalypse unless you happen to have stocked up on it. And then I'm also starting some of the same exact plants in both garden soil and potting soil. And I just want to see how much of a difference there is between the 3. So I'll be able to tell, as the seeds sprout, and I would imagine that probably the seed starting mix is going to be the best and the garden soil is going to be the worst. But I just want to see what the difference will be, because obviously during a long-term grid outage, you're not going to be able to get seed starting mix. So one of the differences, I think, between a prepper and a gardener is a prepper will have all of the stuff for next year ready to go, because if the apocalypse happens in September, you're not going to be able to get seeds, you're not going to be able to get supplies. So, one of the things you want to make sure is that you're a year ahead as far as your supplies for starting your next year's crop. And it's also really, really cool when you have a prepper wife, because she lets you put greenhouses in the bedroom. That's awesome. Okay, and as we can see, our tomatoes are cranking. So a couple weeks ago there was nothing, and now I've got a bunch of tomato plants. My eggplants are starting to pop up a little bit here and there. I've got, you can see, a few eggplants. And these are all heirloom plants that I got. Now here's the peppers. Look at them! How exciting is that? These are all heirloom plants, so I'll be able to save the seeds for next year. And then these are some new ones that I just put in yesterday. We got a couple of avocados just because the 70s were cool. So I'm going to see if I can grow a couple of avocado plants for for indoors, having nothing to do with anything other than just being cool. So this was the first 2 greenhouses I set up indoors, and then I've got the other 2 upstairs, which I'll also show you. So these were the first plants. These were the March seeds that I put in, the tomatoes, the peppers, and the eggplants. And then I've got going in upstairs, I've got basil, cucumbers, cantaloupe, and I think I did some more eggplants too. So there we are so far. Okay, today I just started moving my indoor greenhouses outside. It is now May 1st, and checking the extended forecast, I don't see any frost coming up. Even if there is, a cold night, I'll be able to button these plants up inside these greenhouses, so they should be fine. Now, since I started growing these inside, obviously for my zone, they say we can start planting around Mother's Day. Looks to me like, pretty much I'm good any time now. But what we need to do is we need to get these plants acclimated to the outdoors. So I'm going to be having them out here at night. I'll button them all up and get them acclimated to the outdoors before I actually go ahead and put them into the gardens. Garden soil arriving today, so everything is progressing on time. Now, I told you I was doing a couple of experiments, so let me show you some of the results of them and a couple lessons learned too, at least for me. One of the things I learned is that 2 of the first crops that I put in were the peppers, which are right there, and then the eggplants, these back 2 trays of eggplants. They've been very, very slow to grow, so I think next year I'm going to start them in February in the indoor greenhouse. The tomatoes, obviously, I started them at the same time. It was about mid-March when I started the tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers. And, the tomatoes are phenomenal. They're, really high. I mean, they're like 8 inches high, 6 to 8 inches more. A couple of them are like about a foot high now. So those tomatoes did really, really well. So one lesson learned, I think next year start the eggplants and the peppers. And the eggplants were so slow to germinate that I actually freaked out, bought another batch of eggplants. And this first tray here, I put in a second batch in April. And as you can see, some of them are starting to pop up now. So eggplants, I'd never grown them from seed before. It said, the germination was like, 14 to 21 days they'd appear. Some of them took a lot longer than that. So that was one lesson learned. Another thing, now look at these guys over here. So here you've got your cantaloupe on the right and your cucumbers on the left, and they just went nuts. Matter of fact, they went nuts so much that I gave away a bunch for birthday presents for some of my family members. So I actually gave away a couple trays of plants last week. So this is just what I have left. And it's still, I think I've got more than I can actually plant in my garden. So I'll be giving some more of these away too. So the cantaloupes and the cucumbers did really well. And the squash as well. These are the cantaloupes on the right. Here's the squash. And here are the cucumbers. And they all, did really, really well. My basil over here is also doing well. I might put that in a little bit earlier next year, or at least put in some a little bit earlier so that I've got some, good sized plants to start out with and then do some later. So, throughout the summer, I've got a nice basil crop. So here's another experiment I did. So we were talking about the different types of soil and how the difference between a prepper and a gardener is, a prepper, you want to make sure you've got everything you need for next year because the apocalypse could happen in October and you won't be able to get to Home Depot to get seed starting mix and seeds and everything next winter or spring. So I'm putting away everything I need for next year, and because these are heirloom plants, I should be able to save seeds. That's another experiment of mine. But here, what I did was over on the left-hand side, these 3 pots here are seed starter, and then the other pots are potting soil. So the first 2 plants here are cucumbers. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of difference. The seed starter, it's a little bit bigger, but they both popped up pretty good. Behind that I have cantaloupe. The cantaloupe popped up in the seed starter I don't see it yet in that potting soil, although I do have these cantaloupes in potting soil over here, and they popped up. So I think that one just didn't germinate. So actually, when it comes to the cantaloupes, I don't see any difference. Matter of fact, one of the potting soil cantaloupes is even bigger. And I could say the same with the cucumbers. That cucumber over there is in potting soil. You can see it says CU, that's cucumber. And it's just as big as the one in the seed starting mix. The eggplant, I don't see any difference. You can see in the back row there, those are 2 eggplants. On the left is the seed starting mix. On the right is the garden soil. No difference whatsoever. So I think my lesson learned from this is the seed starting mix does not seem to be that important. The plants did do very well in it. I mean, I grew the cantaloupe, squash, and the cucumbers in seed starting mix, and they cranked. As you can see, they're much bigger. The cucumbers way over there on the left are much bigger than these cucumbers in the potting soil, which I started the same day. So now part of this also may be the size of the pots. The ones over there are in bigger pots, so I'm thinking about that now. But basically, bottom line is, it looks to me like you can use regular potting soil. You know, this basil's in potting soil. All of my initial plants were in regular potting soil. So there doesn't appear to be any problem with starting seeds in potting soil. You probably do get better and bigger results in the seed starting mix, but in a pinch, you don't really need to. So you could put away some potting soil in your garage as a prep so that, you know, should something happen, God forbid, and you can't get stuff next spring, you've got, or next winter or spring, you've got some potting soil and, you know, your seeds and your trays and everything ready to go so you could start food production. Okay, so that's an update on my heirloom seed project. Very, very happy with this. One thing I also did was I did plant some of these as well in garden soil. And if I'm not mistaken, let me see. This might be the one. Yep, garden soil. Okay, so this was another thing too. And as you can see, I've got cantaloupes, eggplants, cucumbers, and basil that all popped up in regular garden soil. So not even potting soil or seed starting mix. Okay, and then for those of you who grew up in the 70s, here is our avocado. You see that taproot that came out, and we've also got a little taproot starting on the other avocado. So the avocado is growing as well. All right, this will probably be it for this video, and we'll do an update later in the season. All right, this is an update on the indoor greenhouse plants. Take a look and see how things are doing. Over here we have eggplants. I've got actually 2 gardens with eggplants in them. Total of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 plants, I guess. And here are the cucumbers. I guess there's the cucumbers. Doing very well. Now we've got our tomatoes. I have tomatoes also in 2 places. And the tomatoes are really doing phenomenal. I mean, this is a really, really sunny spot for these gardens. So these plants are doing really well. Over here, I've got the cantaloupe. And these were all started from seeds in my indoor greenhouses, which had to be indoor because this is Connecticut and it snows until freaking late spring sometimes. And these are my other eggplants. And here's my summer squash, or zucchini, 2 of them anyway. And some of these other plants that I have out here, you know, my beans and my peas and my corn and everything were sown from seed directly outdoors. But the ones that I started indoors all seem to be doing very well. Got peppers over here. Obviously this is the next garden on the list to be weeded. And also my basil. Over here in the herb garden, I've got some basil going. And I put a few basil plants here and there throughout the gardens just because I like basil. And so that's an update. So far, our plants started from seed indoors, and those little $20 Ocean State Job Lot indoor greenhouses are doing just fine. So what I would conclude is that you can grow your own food. You can start your seeds indoors, even in places where the climate isn't terribly conducive to doing it outdoors, as long as you got a couple sunny windows, and you can grow your own food. Very little cost to do this, and when you look at what you're paying for produce in the store, or, you know, God forbid there's an apocalypse, you at least have the ability to grow some food. So this is a really important skill for preppers. Thank you very much for watching.